dyslexia aide at Sharp Elementary, and he passed away here just recently. Also, I ask to remember our superintendent, Mr. Gonzalez, and his family on the recent passing of a dear loved one. Please rise for a moment of silence. Let's face the flag. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you very much. Moving on to item 4, roll call. Let the record reflect everyone is present. Item 5, recommend approving the agenda of the regular school board meeting of January 15, 2008 with any corrections and deletions. Mr. Gonzalez.
Thank you, Dr. Escobedo. Just one correction under general function A, item number 10. Page 27 of the backup will be replaced with page 27A, and I believe you have that. That's all.
Do I have a motion to approve the regular school board meeting? I have a motion by Mr. Parrish, seconded by Mr. Aguilar. In favor, raise your right hand. The motion passes unanimously. Moving on to item 6, superintendent's report. A, conference presentation 1. Presentation of January 2008 School Board Recognition Month. Mr. Gonzalez.
Thank you, Dr. Escobedo, members of the board. As you can see by your just shower with baskets and plants and flowers, January is School Board Recognition Month. And I just want to say, in behalf of administration, that you all do a wonderful job. Want to let everyone know that you all are very supportive of schools, and we want to appreciate you and thank you and honor you for that. You've always been very, very supportive of our students, our staff, our faculties, and everybody involved in the public education sector. It goes without saying that without your support, we couldn't do it. We really appreciate it. And the best thing is that you don't get paid. You do this out of the goodness of your heart. You do it because you have a love for children, and you have a love for this district, and you have a love for this community. And as we go forth, we need to learn to appreciate you year-round. But we take out the month of January to recognize you and show appreciation. And we have a proclamation and some plaques and a whole bunch of other goodies for you. And this time I'd like to ask Ms. Drew Brown to step up to the podium and read the proclamation as I make my way down to be able to give you some plaques.
Mr. Gonzalez, Dr. Escobedo, and members of the board, it's an honor for me to read today's proclamation acknowledging January 2008 as School Board Recognition Month. Whereas the mission of the public schools is to meet the diverse educational needs of all children and to empower them to become competent, productive contributors to a democratic society in an ever-changing world. And whereas local school board members are committed to children and believe that all children can be successful learners and that the best education is tailored to the individual needs of the child, and whereas local school board members work closely with parents, educational professionals, and other community members to create the educational vision we want for our students, and whereas local school board members are responsible for ensuring the structure that provides a solid foundation for our school system, and whereas local school board members are strong advocates for public education and are responsible for communicating the needs of the school district to the public and the public's expectations to the district. Now, therefore, Superintendent Hector Gonzalez and all the BISD students, parents, and staff do hereby declare their appreciation to the members of the Brownsville Independent School District Board and proclaim the month of January 2008 as School Board Recognition Month. We urge all citizens to join us in recognizing the dedication and hard work of local school board members and in working with them to mold an educational system that meets the needs of both today's and tomorrow's children. In official recognition whereof, this 15th day of January 2008. Thank you.
And so recognizing all of you, which you are very deservedly need to be recognized because you do an outstanding job not only for the community, but for our students, and that's very, very important. I'd like to present you with a plaque. It basically reads, it reads your name, and it says, "Is honored for dedicated leadership in public education and continuing service to the children of the Brownsville community and its school district." And I'd like to call on Dr. Enrique Escobedo to step down and receive the plaque. You know, there's a lot of people that really appreciate what you do. And I'm going to call on Mr. Beto Gonzalez, our Deputy Superintendent, to introduce some of the people that want to say thank you to you all. Mr. Gonzalez.
Mr. Gonzalez, Superintendent Gonzalez, and Dr. Escobedo, and members of the board, we are very grateful not only to be in your service, but also the service of this community. And we want to reiterate the words of our superintendent and recognize the fact that most of us here in this room, we get paid for what we do, as we do everything we can to provide our children the best education possible. But we recognize here this month and today, this evening, that you've given unstintedly of your time and your efforts, and sometimes even your own money to help our kids out, and we're grateful for that. No amount of gifts could ever repay you for what you do for this district, and in turn, what we'd like to do is share with you now. The audience is able to see what we've gotten you, and what we've gotten you on behalf of the superintendent, the deputy superintendent, the AAs, to thank you is basically an organizer and an agenda like this with your own personal name inside in case it gets lost and you decide, we know that if Mr. Lehman would never, claim somebody else's, but just in case, they do have your name inside, and we would never want you to misrepresent our district, and so it does have our seal and our emblem in front. And so as a token of our appreciation on behalf of every AA you see around this table and a few others you see in the crowd and our superintendent, we'd like to say thank you with this, and again, thank you, and we recognize what you do for us. We prepared a brief agenda and emphasis on the word brief and succinct. And following the AAs, what we have for you is a presentation on behalf of all of our departments. And leading off is Dr. Salvador Cavazos, Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum and Instruction.
On behalf of the Curriculum and Instruction Department, Superintendent Gonzalez, President Escobedo, members of the board, we'd like to also thank you for your ongoing support of our department. As with our focus on teaching and learning, we know that without your support, we couldn't do our jobs. Again, I'd like to reiterate and echo our superintendent's sentiment and thank you for your commitment. On our behalf, we have pooled our personal resources and purchased a gift basket for each of you to enjoy with your families. And again, thank you for your commitment and your service.
Thank you. Are those perpetual every month for a lifetime or? Following Dr. Cavazos, we have Brett Springston, our new Assistant Superintendent for Maintenance and Operations.
Good evening. I'd like to recognize the Board of Trustees for everything that you have done on behalf of maintenance, operations, food service, transportation, health services, and also, last but not least, and the most important is our PACE cluster schools. And with any further ado, I would like to introduce Leo. And he is going to present something to you this evening.
Good evening, Dr. Enrique Escobedo Jr., fellow school board members, and Mr. Gonzalez. My name is Leonardo Quintana, and I am a 5th grade student at U.S. Congressman Solomon P. Ortiz Elementary. On behalf of the entire student body, faculty, and staff of Ortiz Elementary, we appreciate the commitment to excellence you continuously provide to all of us. We are extremely appreciative of those of you who have come to our campus to read during our morning televised announcements. I would like to extend this invitation to the others to join us this school year as well. 2 special board members have also given of their time to our school. Mr. Rolando Aguilar and Mr. Ruben Cortez have committed themselves as care partners for this school year. CARE, which stands for Caring Adults Reaching Everyone, is a program which allows community members to become true partners in education. As care partners, Mr. Aguilar and Mr. Cortez visit with their adopted classrooms once every 6 weeks. Thank you once again, all board members, for joining us in making Ortiz Elementary a successful school. By the way, I'd like to leave you with one last thought. Take a good look at this face, for maybe one day I too may be sitting on the other side doing what's best for kids. Keep up the good work. At this time we will At this time, we would like to present each board member with a small token of appreciation. Thank you for your time.
Like I had mentioned, board members, it's the students, and we appreciate everything that you do to help our students and everything that you represent about our community.
Thank you, Mr. Springston. One more round of applause for the PACE cluster. Thank you. Our other 4 clusters will also follow after 2 more areas. And the next area is our H&R, Human Resources, Ms. Susan Fox, Assistant Superintendent.
Dr. Escobedo, members of the board, the Department of Human Resources wants to thank you. Our written thank yous are at your places. Your time and your efforts in support of our students and our staff do not go unnoticed. We appreciate all that you do. Thank you so much for your support.
Anything else, Susan?
Princeton is a hard act to follow.
And now, representing our business office, we have Mrs. Rosie Peña.
Good evening, Dr. Escobedo, board members. On behalf of the Chief Financial Officer's Office and Cluster, Mr. Fuller and myself would like to take this opportunity to thank you for the support that you have provided the finance area throughout the year, and most importantly, for supporting the children of our district. We know that you work countless hours entirely towards the children, so we really appreciate it. Thank you.
And now, representing the proud Hanna Cluster, we have Dr. Carl Montoya.
Dr. Escobedo, members of the board, I allocate my time to our high school principal and some students that will welcome you and give you appreciation for all that you do for our district and our students. Terry, if you'll come up, please.
Good evening. On behalf of the entire Hanna Cluster principals, faculty, staff members, and students, we'd like to thank each and every one of you for your time and commitment that you give to our district every single day. Our gift to you this evening is a plant, and it's indicative of what occurs in the classroom. So every time you look at this plant, remember that there's a lot of growth, of knowledge, and learning in the classroom. So thank you. And this evening, we have some students that would also like to extend their sincere thanks for all that you do.
We, the Victoria Heights Student Council, would like to give our sincere thanks to the Brownsville School Board members for your hard work and dedication to the students of Brownsville. We are very grateful for all the improvements in our campuses and educational equipment the district has provided to make us perform at our highest level of learning. With the help of our parents, teachers, and administrators, we will achieve our goals. Thank you again from the Tiger Student Council and the Hanna Cluster.
That's 20,000 students. 30 to go. Mary Jo Monfals, representing the Lopez Cluster.
Dr. Escobedo, members of the board, Lopez Cluster principals are here in full force, also to express our gratitude to each and every one of you for your service. Ms. Hall will lead the parade. She gets here.
Good evening, Superintendent Gonzalez and school board members. Many of you have come to our schools to support our programs, to help with our kids, and so with a nod to Dr. Cavazos, I want to borrow something that he shared with us as an explanation of how we feel about all that you do for us. Excellence is never an accident. It's always the result of high intention, sincere effort, intelligent direction, skillful execution, and the vision to see obstacles as opportunities. And that epitomizes what you have done for our schools. You've given us your vision, you've given us empowerment so we can carry forth for the children of this community, and we thank you. We have some small tokens that we want to give to each of you in recognition for your selfless service. Thank you.
Wow.
Wow, look at that.
How are you, sir? Good, I wanted to thank you. No me regañes.
Okay.
Mr. Lehman. Portrait. Dr. Escobedo's portrait.
The portrait.
And as we're getting ready for a portrait, I'd like to ask security to come by and do a sweep underneath these tables to make sure that all the gifts make it to the board members.
¿En Rivera?
Oh,
20,000 to go.
yes, that's correct. 20,000 students to go. And now representing the Porter Nation, we have Miss Rachel Ayala.
Dr. Escobedo, members of the board, in behalf of the 13 campuses in the Porter cluster, we would like to thank you for everything that you do for us. At this time, I would like to turn it over to my principal, Dora Sauceda, and all my other principals in the cluster. Thank you.
Dr. Escobedo, Mr. Gonzalez, board members, before we begin, I would just like to tell you that we're very grateful for everything that you do, and in honor of School Board Recognition Month, we chose one of our finest and brightest future MIT student, Mr. Sammy Rodarte, and he's going to say a few words on behalf of the Porter Cluster.
Good afternoon. Dr. Escobedo, board members, Mr. Hector Gonzalez. My name is Samuel Rodarte, and I am a senior at Porter High School. The Porter Cluster would like to extend a sincere gratitude to all the BISD school members for your hard work and dedication to the school district and the children of BISD. Board members are chosen by the people to pass policy, balance budgets, and make decisions that possibly affect all of the school children of BISD. Board members spend countless hours at board meetings and are called upon to attend many school district functions. They have to go above and beyond their call of duty to volunteer to read stories to the elementary children as guest speakers to many campuses and by attending various extracurricular activities and academic functions. Your commitment to this school district certainly does not go unnoticed. We are sure that you will continue to serve the district for the betterment of the students and the Brownsville community. We want to congratulate each and every one of you for a job well done. You deserve it.
The Porter Cluster would like to also thank you by giving you a small token on our behalf. Thank you.
The rest of the baskets are behind in your place,
there you
okay? We just wanted to show you what they look like.
You're not sharing.
And now, for the final 10,000 students in our district, the newly revitalized, newly energized district, welcome back, Berta Peña, the Rivera Cluster.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. Dr. Escobedo, members of the board, I think we did save the best for the very last. I call it like I see it. No. I do want to say that there's nothing greater than to be a Raider. And on behalf of the Raider Cluster principals, we would like to also tell you how much we appreciate you and that we thank you for all your hard work and support. With us now, because they wanted to say a few words, Mr. Tim Snyder, Blanca Lambari, Oscar Cantu Jr., Jay Harris, Berta Presas, Lucy Green, and Yolanda Kruger.
They're a little shy.
I guess you're a little bashful. Good evening, Ms. Gavan and gentlemen. Okay. On behalf of the 7 schools from the Rivera Cluster, as well as back in BLA, we want to thank you for all that you do. I know that the kids have already mentioned that, but one thing I have noticed is twice this week I've seen you at restaurants, 2 of you separately, and each time you got interrupted. No, 2 different restaurants. I don't know.
What time was this?
One of you I saw at lunch, one of you I saw at breakfast, and at each time I saw several people coming up to you, and as you're trying to eat, visiting with you and so forth, parents and kids and adults, and I just want to thank you for all you do. And I want to share a proverb that's one of my favorite: for lack of vision, the people perish, and for the lack of, if you don't have a vision, our kids would perish. So I want to thank you for the vision that you have in moving this school district forward, and our 10,000 students in our cluster, but and all 50,000 kids that you affect every day by the decisions you make. So thank you for your vision, and thank you for moving us forward. And on behalf of all of us, we thank you for all that you do for our cluster and all you do for Brownsville and the kids of BISD. Thank you very much. And behind you, we have some goodie baskets that we have given to you, so we hope that you enjoy those with your family and your loved ones, and you all have a great month. And I'm sorry, this is kind of like your birthday, 364 days out of the year, we don't think of somebody in quite the way we do that one special day, and I guess this is your one special day. So once again, thank you to all of you.
Superintendent Gonzalez, thank you so much for the opportunity to be able to represent you in this endeavor.
schools.
Oh.
18 schools.
That's why I gave you a chance to come sit down for a minute. But they can't come in because...
Well, I'd just like to say thank you for all the kind words, the cards, the gifts. I know that I personally take them very seriously. I read all the cards, all the names of the cards. I arrived early to look at the banners, and I go through all the names, even though obviously I don't know most of the people that signed it, but it means a lot to me to see, you know, the effort that is made in saying thank you. Like Mr. Snyder said, one day a year, but it's really, really worth it to me anyway. I have a lot of fun eating everything in the baskets. In fact, this morning, I took my first year as a board member, we received a plant, and this morning I took it out thinking it might get some rain and some sun, but unfortunately it got a little rain instead. But just thank you for all the kind gestures. They mean a lot to me. Anything else, Mr. Powers?
Thank you, President. Well, you know, it's very humble that what we see out here from the staff, the employees, the children. And as the elected official, all of us here, Board of Trustees, we take this, you know, it's very serious. We really work 365 days a year for BISD. If you really look at it, it is true. We get stopped at restaurants, grocery stores. But you know what? If you didn't love it, you wouldn't be here. And we have to listen to people. I respect people that come to my office. I've been in the same location since '86, and I'll have always my door open to anybody. But it is humbling. I appreciate everything everybody said and the good words. And from the bottom of my heart, I would really want to thank you very, very much.
Anything else? Mr. Colunga?
I wanted to thank all of you for your kind gestures and kind words. Really have been overwhelmed by all of the gestures and the baskets, cards. Like Dr. Escobedo mentioned, we do read each and every single card that we receive and appreciate your thoughtfulness. It is the best celebration that we've ever had as School Board Recognition Month. Thank you.
Mrs. Galavan?
Yeah, I wanted to say that there's no better job than being an educator. And I not only get to be an educator, but I also get to be on the board. And I know that in education, probably the best part is that you're always surrounded with a lot of loves and a lot of hugs. And tonight we can see that, and I really want to thank you. And I too read all the cards, and I enjoy the phone calls, and I just know that we all work really well together. And from the bottom of my heart, I'd really like to thank you, and I really appreciate each and every one of you, the children who made the posters and the hands up there. It all really means a lot. So thank you so much.
Mr. Aguilar?
Of course, we're all going to say thank you because we really mean it. It's amazing how every single day we meet our human fellow men out there in the streets, in our schools, and they've always been so nice to us. We might have differences, but you have never in my life seen anyone not treat us nice and we love like you have been. And of course, we also read all these cards myself. Some of you may know me. I'm a pack rat. My wife is getting a shed so we can put all these cards that I keep for my scrapbooks, all the pictures and everything like that. I mean, I have about 5 volumes already of all the prints that has happened in the 4 years, from the simplest letter that the kids tell me to a portrait that some kid also from Burns Elementary drew about me, and this is my second one. So those are all displayed at homes. We love what we do. I know every single member loves what they do. Sometimes it's the time element that we spend, and we appreciate it. And I hope that this year will be the most successful year we ever had in BISD. Thank you for all the things that you do for us.
Thank you, Mr. Aguilar. Anything else? Mr. Cortez?
I'd also like to thank everybody for these wonderful displays of affection. It's hard to even put into words what you guys did here tonight. Just seeing these things, and personally, I don't need all these things to do what I do. I enjoyed being on the board, even though I've only been on just a little over a year. You all have received me so well. I wish I can just give BISD a big hug right now. I feel, for lack of better words, there's a lot of emotion going through me right now. So I just want to thank everybody for their support and for all their hard work, and thank all the students for all that they do as well. Thank you.
Mr. Lehman.
I better say something because, Mr. Gonzalez, I gotta see you later. No, I'm just kidding. I echo the sentiments of my colleagues and personally want to thank the entire staff, the entire system of the BISD for the tremendous gratitude you've shown us today. And yes, sir, colleagues, make sure these go because otherwise they're going to my truck.
Too bad you didn't bring the scooter today. You couldn't fit much of this. All right. Great. Well, again, thank you. As much as I'd like to stay on this item, and I wish I could stay on it longer, we move on to item 2, recognition of 18 BISD schools named to Best Public School List, although this is also a very, very, very encouraging item. Mr. Gonzalez?
Thank you, Dr. Escobedo. You know, as we go forth and we see all the recognition, here are the results. Because of the wise decisions you make and the care you take for BISD, we've been able to accomplish what very few school districts have been able to accomplish. That's put 18 schools in the best of the state, not only for 1 year, they must prove themselves for 3 years in order to make this list. 13 elementaries, 5 middle schools as the best in the state. This is something that we need to to recognize our students, our staff, our teachers for all their hard work and smart work that they do. It's really encouraging to see this many schools in this list. No other district has as many as we do, percentage-wise, and we're very grateful for that. And in Region 1, and we're very, very grateful for that. This is what it's all about. The work that you do, the unselfishness that you do for this district is proven by the student performance. And here to elaborate and talk about it, this recognition of schools is Dr. Cavazos. Dr. Cavazos.
President Escobedo, Superintendent Gonzalez, I echo the words of our superintendent. The hard work that you provide and the service that you provide is also shown in the classroom by our teachers and our students. And as we raise the bar and the expectations on teaching and learning, they've come and met that challenge. We've had an awesome year. We have an awesome year at Brownsville ISD Schools. They've had an award-winning year. First, we had 4 exemplary campuses and 23 recognized schools. Then 10 elementary schools were named to the prestigious TBEC Honor Roll. Now we are here to recognize the 18 schools, 13 elementary, and 5 middle that were named to the December 2007 Texas Monthly Magazine list of top Texas public schools. Student test results for the past 3 years served as a basis for this ranking. The district's Texas Monthly schools are represented tonight by the principal of the school, a teacher, and a parent and a student. At this time, Dr. Escobedo, Superintendent Gonzalez, and members of the board, I would like to invite you to step into the semicircle once again to present plaques to our 18 schools. Our first school, we will begin with Sharp Elementary. Mario Rodriguez is the Sharp principal. Area Superintendent, Rachel Ayala. Another elementary school recognized with this award is Benavides Elementary. Representing Benavides Elementary is the principal Cheryl Stout and area's assistant superintendent Brett Springston. Another elementary school recognized is Gallegos Elementary. Lucy Green is the Gallegos principal and area assistant superintendent Berta Peña. Another elementary recognized is Gonzalez Elementary. Yolanda Kruger is the Gonzalez principal and area assistant superintendent Berta Peña. Another elementary school recognized is Longoria Elementary. Marina Flores is the Longoria principal. Area Assistant Superintendent Rachel Ayala. Another elementary school recognized is Martin Elementary with Gilda Jo Peña as the Martin principal. Area Assistant Superintendent Brett Springston. Another elementary school recognized is Morningside Elementary with Dolores Emerson as the Morningside principal. Area Assistant Superintendent Mary Jo Monfile. Another elementary school receiving this recognition is Paredes Elementary with Julie Trevino as the Paredes principal. Area Assistant Superintendent Dr. Carl Montoya. Another elementary school receiving this recognition is Putnet Elementary with Ernestina Trevino, the Putnet principal, Area Assistant Superintendent Rachel Ayala. Another school receiving this recognition is Resaca Elementary. Carlos Paredes is the Resaca principal, Area Assistant Superintendent Rachel Ayala. Another school receiving this recognition is Russell Elementary. Bill Gutierrez is the Russell principal, Area Assistant Superintendent Brett Springston. Another elementary school receiving this recognition is Villanueva Elementary. Jose H. Martinez is the Villanueva principal, Area Assistant Superintendent Brett Springston. Our final elementary school in this category receiving this recognition is Ituria Elementary. Norma Torres is the Ituria principal. Area Assistant Superintendent Brett Springston. There were 5 middle schools that were recognized as well by the Texas Monthly. First middle school is Lucio Middle School. Rose E. Longoria is the Lucio principal. Area Assistant Superintendent Mary Jo Monfils. Our second middle school recognized is Oliveira Middle School. Alonso Barbosa Jr. is the Oliveira principal. Area Assistant Superintendent Dr. Carl Montoya. Our third middle school recognized in this category is Perkins Middle School. Blanca Lambari is the Perkins principal. Area Assistant Superintendent Berta Peña. Our fourth middle school recognized, Stell Middle School. Acacia Amil is the Stell Principal, Area Assistant Superintendent Brett Springston.
How are you? Acacia, congratulations.
Our final middle school and school recognized was Vela Middle School. Robert Gonzalez is the Vela Principal, Area Assistant Superintendent Dr. Carl Montoya. Superintendent Gonzalez, President Escobar, I want to share with you that these accolades that our schools have received are a result of the hard work of our students and our teachers in the classroom and the support of the parents, as well as the commitment and leadership that you have provided. Thank you so much. Again, this concludes our recognition ceremony. Congratulations to our 18 Texas Monthly schools and their representatives.
Thank you, Dr. Cavazos, and congratulations to all those schools again. They did a fantastic job, and they represent Brownsville well. And in the same tone, we have other students that represent Brownsville very well. We have an excellent chess program here in the district. And the next agenda item, with all respect, Mr. President, if you would like for me to introduce it, is the recognition of chess winners from National Scholastic Championship Chess Tournament. And to introduce this presentation, I call on Deputy Beto Gonzalez.
Yes, sir. Superintendent Gonzalez, Dr. Escobedo, and Board of Trustees, due to your vision and leadership in this school district, the Brownsville Independent School District, the chess program is not just an extracurricular program. It might be considered a co-curricular program and part of our culture. In fact, it's not uncommon to see our kids not only all over the state, but sometimes all over the country and abroad competing. That being said, our area superintendent, Dr. Carl Montoya, has more to say on this matter.
Dr. Escobedo, members of the board, Mr. Gonzalez, we are very proud of this group to be the best in the United States among literally several thousand is to be the highest honor. And these types of students bring back not only chess championships, but academically they are some of our best. and I turn this over to Mr. Stephen Schull for the actual presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Montoya. Good evening, Board President Dr. Escobedo, Superintendent Mr. Gonzalez, members of the board, and ladies and gentlemen in the audience. At this time, we are here to honor several Hanna High School chess students who competed at the 2007 National Grade K-12 Championship Chess Tournament on December 7th through the 9th in Houston, Texas. Starting with our 11th graders, who placed second as a team in the nation, we had Christopher David Peña, Christian R. Sacco, and Gabriel Soto Jr., who was not able to be here tonight. Congratulations, gentlemen. And placing first in the nation in the 12th grade championship category, first of all was Javier Martinez Jr., who is the team captain. Mauro L. Delgado. Armando Romo. And Kevin Gomez. A little bit of information on these gentlemen. They've been playing chess together at Hanna since they were 9th graders. And as 9th graders, they also placed first in this competition. So congratulations, gentlemen. I'd like to also recognize their coach, Nelda Rogers, and J.J. Garza, and their principal, Ms. Terry Alarcon.
Comments you want to say?
Well, thank you, Mr. Gonzalez, and congratulations to all of our students. They continue to make us proud as they've done in the past, our schools, their academic achievements. The chess results are extremely impressive, having placed so high in the nation. Congratulations to our chess players and to all of our schools that achieved this recognition as being the best public school list. You know, it's only reflective of the students' ability, the dedication of the parents, the teachers, faculty, staff, principals, the parental involvement, so many factors that together result in the students' academic success. And this recognition is only something very minimal of what awaits you in the future. You know, your true payoff for your efforts will be in your future and the difference that you will make in your community. Any other comments or questions, comments? Again, thank you. Moving on to item 4. Presentation of financial report for the period ended November 30th, 2007. Mr. Gonzalez.
Thank you, Dr. Escobedo, members of the board. You have that information. We'd like to entertain any questions you might have, and Mr. Fuller and Ms. Peña are both here in case you have any questions.
Questions or comments from the board? Between those two, they should be able to answer most of our questions, huh? Okay. All right.
They're teaming up.
They're teaming up. If there are no questions, then we move on to item 5, naming of new schools. Mr. Gonzalez.
Thank you, Dr. Escobedo, members of the board. You know, we have 5 new campuses that are coming on board. And I know it seems a little bit early, but it's really not. We're just a year away, and we like to name our campuses as soon as possible. And the board has the right and the privilege of selecting the names for those campuses. One's a high school, one's a middle school, and 3 elementaries. I just want to go over it, not only for the board, but for the public to understand how we go about selecting schools, the names of schools. It's just not something that's picked out by board members and say, this is it. There is a process in place. The process can be seen, if you want to read it, general public, you go to our website, go to policy online, and look at policy CW local, that's C as in cat, W as in walk, CW local, and you'll be able to get the same information. We do have a nomination form that's available through public information, if you so desire. Basically, I'm going to read them out, so not only for y'all, but for the public more than anything else. In the naming of school buildings or other facilities, the following guidelines shall be used. No facility shall be named for any person or persons who is employed by the district at the time of the naming. Exceptions may be made in the case of donated school site. I don't think we have anybody that's going to donate a school site, but if you're employed with the district, you're ineligible. Facilities may be named after persons who have served the district or community. School facilities may be named after any local, state, or national heroic figure. The nominee must have made a significant contribution to society and or education, and his or her name should lend prestige and status to an institution of learning. School facilities may be named after any local, state, or national geographic site. A recommendation for the naming of the new school buildings must be placed on the board's agenda at least 6 months before the recommendation can be considered by the board as an action item. Any name change approved by the board shall not become effective until the beginning of the following school year. We're not going to change any names, so whenever the board decides to name a school, that will be it. It is usually for 6 months that it's placed. However, the board does have the authority to waive and name immediately. What we've done in the past, like, you know, most of you are around for Ben Bright, the names were submitted. We still have those names. It'll be up to the board to consider those names, or do they want to start a new list. My suggestion is to start a new list. And we'll actually say elementary, middle school, and high school, and they can either submit the names for all of them, or just for the high school, or just for the middle school, or just for the elementaries. So that's the way to do it. The nomination form, like I said, can be picked up. Drew, is it available through the website or not? It can be made available, so you don't even have to come to the main office. You can go to our website and pick up the nomination form. It's on page 18 of the agenda, if you all want to look at it as board members. And once we take those nominations in, I will certainly confer with the board if they want to set up a deadline for accepting nominations, which I'm sure we would want to, and then at that time consider them and be able to name the schools. Dr. Escobedo, or any board member, you have any questions or any comments you want to make concerning the nomination for naming the schools?
Well, I agree that we should start a new list and issue a deadline. Obviously not now, but in the future. That way we can issue the deadline as far in advance as possible so the public knows, and we can consider all of the names. Any other comments or questions on maybe the new schools? Mr. Bladen?
And the selection process, how is that brought? I still don't remember how the other names came to us.
The process is the same way every time. We take the nominations, and basically on the nomination form, whoever is nominating, if Hector Gonzalez is nominating Juan Garza or whatever, I put the name into it, and I give the accolades. I address all the accolades as to why, the reasons why the school should be named after this person. There'll be many names submitted. It becomes now the board then receives this book after the deadline. We get everything together and we send them out to you. You would then review those on your own, and then we come back as an action item. Y'all can discuss it, and then any board member at that time may say, I nominate Juan Garza to be the name of X elementary school. At that time, the vote is taken. If that's the desire of the board, then it's done that way.
Because when we named, I guess, Solomon Ortiz, I don't believe the board ever being part of the process.
Yes, sir.
It's just, well, I mean, as far as nominating, I mean, not to pick on that. I don't remember the last time how the names got shortened to either 5 or 3.
Under the process we had, Ben Bright became, I believe, the last one, right, was Ben Bright, and they became selected. Somebody made a nomination, and it was all agreed to name the school.
But when they come to us, though, I mean, I saw a list of 200 names. That's what exists right now, about 200.
We gave you a book.
Okay, but I mean, the selection process, I think that, well, and I go back to the original, I mean, you weren't here, but it was kind of...
Solomon Ortiz.
Well, there were 2 names or 3 names that were brought to us, but the naming of that school, but I don't remember the board ever becoming a part of it. It just like a committee, I don't know what the committee was. I'm just curious as to what the process is really going to be. Are we going to meet? Is there going to be input from the public? I know that the last time there was a lot of input from the public
Yes.
and private sector, and that came about. But going back, I would say 4 years ago, I don't remember that process ever being followed. But I just want to make sure that we do have a systematic process to where we start eliminating and we narrowed it down to, I guess, 5 or 3, whatever it may be.
And it could be that if I may, Dr. Squirrel, it could be that, and I'll discuss this with the board president, see if he wants to have a selection committee appointed, or if you want the whole board to be a committee. The thing is, all of you will get the names. All of you will get the names. And at that particular time, just like we did with Ben Bright, people come up to the podium and present why they, or defend their submission, and the board has the final authority in the selection of a name. I don't know how it was done with Ortiz, because I don't know. But I'm very familiar with Ben Bright because I knew the process was done, as they say, through the policy, and the selection was done.
Mr. Aguilar?
Thank you, Dr. Squirrel. The last time the only school we ever got involved at this board is Ben Bright. And the process was fine. I mean, we got a booklet with all the schools and the petitions, stuff like that, and there's only a couple of inputs. I kind of like it. However, perhaps we should have, as a board, some time to discuss some of these nominations that we receive from the administration, and come prepared before the board and make whatever decisions or selections we want to make. Because if I remember that night, it was an action item, and right away somebody made a motion. This is what Mr. Lemon is talking about. So to me, I think it's only fair that we discuss some of these nominations by ourselves, and then whatever the public, and that night, then we vote. So perhaps we can improve on that process.
That's what I was trying to say. I couldn't spit it out.
And we certainly can.
Mr. Powers?
President, I think the way we did it before, that Ben Bright and all that, is me and Colunga, we were here when we named those 4 or 5 schools. What we did is once the deadline was set and we got the nominations, we did a workshop, hosted a workshop, all the board members come, and the public's invited to give their inputs on the selection of schools. So really what you want to do is like a workshop before you have an agenda item. Then you go through all the nominations and hear the public's going to be involved, the community's going to be involved, and you hear the concerns. That's what I would do.
Mr. Gonzalez?
And it's certainly a process that should be taking place. It should not be taken lightly, and the naming of a school is forever, as they say. And I certainly agree that, or once we decide on the deadline for closing, then after that, the board president can call a board workshop for that, discuss it, put it in the paper, discuss it, whoever wants to come to the board workshop, give them a time limitation, maybe of presenting 2 or 3 minutes or whatever in each individual that wants to present, however you want to handle it as the president of the board. And then have an action item later to decide on which one we want to go. The thing is, we want to start the process now because we want to name them in spring and have them ready to go in summer, because by summer, everything will be under construction. And we like to have the signs out there say X elementary or X middle school or X high school instead of high school number 6 or middle school number 12 or elementary number 144. I mean, we like to give it a name from the very onset.
I agree. Any other comments or questions?
If it's okay, Mr. President, I'd like to go ahead and start accepting nominations.
Okay.
That's okay with the board?
That's fine with me.
Okay.
Any objections? No objections. That's
Okay.
fine. Okay, with that said, we move on to B, standing board agenda items, 6 board calendars. Mr. Gonzalez.
Thank you, Dr. Scarrow, members of the board. We have a few items that we want to just highlight for you all. There's a couple of things that we want to inform you all about. First of all, this coming Thursday, the 17th, is not on your calendar, but I want to just remind you, we do have Superintendent's Coffee, and it's going to be in the evening. The first time it's being held in the evening, it'll be at Porter High School. And so any parent or anybody you want to say, I have never had the opportunity to go to Superintendent's Coffee and ask questions or hear his presentation because I work, we'll be having it at 5:30 at Porter High School at the auditorium. Also at that time, that same evening, unfortunately, we do have a grassroots meeting at Region 1 for any board member that wants to go. They let me know today it's not too late to sign up if you want to go. I know Mr. Cortez has already signed up to go to that, and it's basically what legislative issues board members want to bring forth to the state, at the state level. And we're getting ready, I'm working with Mr. Cortez, and we're going to get him a package ready for tomorrow for him and review it with him to see what are the issues that we think as administration we want to address. Certainly funding is one of the key issues that we want to address. So that's happening on Thursday. I've briefly met with Mr. Lehman, and he's agreed that the 22nd, which is a week from tonight, at 5:30 would be a good time to have a facilities committee meeting. At that time, besides other agenda items that Mr. Lehman and I might agree to put on there, he's going to bring up up to date on the bond projects and the other elementary school that's being by local funds. Specify the timelines where we're at, when it's going out for bid, when it's construction, review the plans by the architects, see the final, more or less the final layout of the plans, make any corrections, or have the board members any opportunities to ask questions concerning those projects that will be ongoing. We also have on the 31st, for the general public to understand and know that the BISD will have college and financial aid night at the Brownsville Event Center at 6:30 p.m. That's on the 31st of January. If your child is planning on going to college and you want information, please go to the financial aid night at 6:30 p.m. at the Brownsville Event Center. That's on the 31st of January. Friday, February 1st, and some of you might be asked, I don't know, I've heard some phone calls saying, can we ask board members? The answer is yes. Principal for a day. The community gets to participate in principal for a day. So that'll be on February 1st. If you're invited community members, please, you'll learn what it is to be a principal for one day. You'll never want to do it again. But it is principal for the day on the 1st, and we'll have a luncheon at that place. Where are we going to have that, Drew? Have we finalized the location yet? La Cantera? Okay. So that'll be on Friday, February 1st. Also, the week of the 4th of February is National School Counseling Week. So let's appreciate our counselors and work and with the work that they do. We're also canceling, if approved tonight, the board meeting on the 5th and rescheduling it to the 12th. If it's approved tonight, and that's because I won't be in town nor 3 or 4 board members will not be in town. We'll be going to the National Association of School Boards meeting in Washington, D.C. to talk to the legislatures concerning legislative issues at the national level. So we'll be there. Annual jump rope for Hearts is on February the 8th at Sam Stadium at 8:30 to 11:30 if you want to go. Something that's always very popular with the public is on the 9th of February, the district spelling bee at Vela Middle School. That's something that we all go to. And the week of February the 11th, we have TMEA, that's the Music Educator Association Convention. We have over 20 students from BISD that are state winners. They will be either in band or in choir. I will be going to that, and I believe, Mr. Aguilar, I think you said you would be attending that. If any board member wants to go, please let me know. That's the Texas Music Educator Association Convention, where all student state winners will be participating and elaborating. Okay, anything else?
Nothing, Mr. Cortez?
Yeah, on that grassroots meeting on the 17th, if anybody wants to ride with me, if they want to come, I'll be happy to pick them up.
Good. Thank you. Appreciate the offer. Any other comments or questions? If not, we move on to public audience. The next item on our agenda is the public comment period. This is the time for citizens, staff, or students to provide their comments to the board. Statements and questions from the audience will not be permitted during other portions of the meeting, so please let's hear from you now if you have comments to present. To have your comments heard tonight, your name and the subject matter of your comments must appear in the sign-in sheet, which is located in the rear of the meeting room. Each speaker will be limited to 5 minutes to complete his or her comments, and with all due courtesy, I will strictly enforce a time limit. If a group of people want to be heard on the same topic, the board asks that they designate a spokesperson to avoid needless repetition. The board has adopted rules to preclude the abuse of open forum by, for example, anyone uselessly repeating the same comment or complaint meeting after meeting. All participants must understand that if a comment, in my judgment, constitutes a complaint against an employee or an officer, I will interrupt you and ask you to proceed with BISD formal grievance procedures, be that DGBA, FNG, or GF local. With those cautions in mind, we will now be glad to hear your general comments. The first speaker is Ortiz Elementary, and the subject is board appreciation. I think they already did, right? Well, thank you to Ortiz Elementary. The next speaker is George Borrego, and the subject to be discussed, left blank. Yeah, he's going to appreciate it, I'm sure.
I don't want to limit myself to one subject, but because then you'll stop me. I usually put miscellaneous. We do appreciate you all a lot. You don't get paid for what you do, and you do it with vigor. And now with all these snacks, you're going to have energy for the rest of the year, unless you share. Today you have an opportunity to show the employees at BISD your support for them. Many times you will have to decide issues that are in a gray area. And if you go one way, you don't know if you're doing the right thing, and you go the other way, you don't know if you're doing the right thing. Today, you have an issue that there's nothing to discuss. It should never have gotten where it got, and you're going to be able to make a decision that will send a resounding message to the employees throughout the district, to everybody, that you support them 100%. And I hope that you all make that right decision today and on a unanimous basis. Thank you.
The next speaker is Alberto Alegría. The subject to be discussed, clinics, fitness program grant, and board elections.
Good evening, members of the board, President Escobedo, Superintendent Gonzalez, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Alberto Alegría, the proud president of the Association of Brownsville Educators, representing over 2,600 members in BISD. Tonight, the Association of Brownsville Educators would like to wish each and every one of you recognition on School Board Members Week. My comments tonight are a continuation of December the 18th, 2007 speech that I wasn't able to complete because of time constraints. What I was recommending to the administration, to our school board, if you recall, was the consideration of the free clinics concept for all BISD employees. I left off stating that the responsible body for recommendation is the Employee Insurance Committee, and that the committee has never heard a presentation from any clinic program. There was a survey, and when you ask an employee a question that reads, if an employee clinic would raise the cost of your insurance plan, keywords, would you still be interested in having a clinic? Well, the employee's answer would be indisputably a no. The question seems to me to divert from the very fact that it can be a beneficial concept to BISD and the BISD employees. The Association of Brownsville Educators represents over 1,000 classified employees. The concept is to save on downtime of sick employees and return the employees back to his or her work as soon as possible, and saving on substitutes cost, and obvious savings to the district. We have acknowledged that in the last 4 years, our health insurance program has been in the black approximately about $10 million. I adamantly feel that the Health Insurance Committee and the free clinic concept has been compromised. I can assure you that the expense to jumpstart a clinic is not what the Employees Health Insurance Committee is hearing. Again, who is giving that information to the Employees Insurance Committee? It's a mystery. All we are saying is give these individuals that have a clinic program presentation and let them lay it on the table with facts and figures. We will never know what the facts are if we never hear it from the horse's mouth. School board officers and committee chair appointments. In the past school years, we have witnessed school board of officers elections within the board and committee recommendations done in a yearly base. The Association of Brownsville Educators is a little inquisitive of whether those procedures should have transpired last November. I don't like to read between the lines, however, because of the changes in the past and recently of school board elections, November of 2008, we would like to know if those events of re-electing officers and committee chairpersons within the board will be revealed. I am only inquiring because I've seen and I've heard in the past that all board members, new and with experience, should be given the opportunity to serve as officers and committee chairpersons, so to better improve the school board expertise in school district decision-making. Again, just food for thought. Physical Education Fitness Grant. Recently, BISD received a fitness grant of approximately a little bit over $300,000 to test elementary and middle school students in cardiovascular and physical endurance capabilities. Physical educators throughout the district have worked diligently with the assistance of other district employees to compile data needed to situate into our software and send it to TEA. The end result is that every elementary and middle school will receive $30,000 to purchase physical education equipment that is well needed for students and equally deserving for physical education teachers. The dilemma is that the district has not been able to set up the proper software capability needed to insert the data collected by our teachers. The district's recent response is that the computer services is having a difficulty implementing the FitnessGram software into the BISD computer system. Tonight, we ask administration for a little help in that. Common courtesy from board. The board must demonstrate common courtesy to speakers when educational issues are to be addressed in order that we may demonstrate to each other a mutual understanding of positive and constructive dialogue when it comes to concerns. It is an educational travesty when the board uses school policy to derail speakers of issues that should be heard by the board, a responsibility inherited by being elected to serve and listen to the community's concerns. It is imperative that this board show common courtesy to all speakers because the board, as board members, you have a civic duty to listen to the issues that you may or may not like. It is also important that this board understand that as leader of the Association of Brownsville Educators, whether I represent 6 or 2,600 members, we should be entitled to the consideration of this school board to listen to the employees' concerns and have common politeness to allow those individuals their civic rights, especially when time was of abundance according to BISD board policy BED local on 12/18 of '07. Again, thank you and Happy New Year.
Our next speaker is Judy Rodriguez. The subject is new schools.
Good evening, Board President, Dr. Escobedo, board members, Mr. Gonzalez, administrators, and audience. My name is Judy J. Rod Rodriguez. I can't live without that name. A longtime veteran and retired teacher from BISD. I have been missing in action for a couple of years. Aside from being a guest speaker and reading to the children at various libraries and BISD, I have been taking my retirement seriously. Excuse me. I am hopeful, however, that I will continue to be a faithful follower of the BISD board meetings on KBSD, as well as a frequent writer to the editorial page of the Brownsville Herald. Those of you who have kept up with the editorial page and channels 17 and 12 know where I'm coming from when I take this opportunity to sincerely commend you and for your proper knowledge and application of Robert's Rules of Order when conducting your meetings. Enough said on that, as I turn to the main reason why I speak before you. I am excited about the upcoming construction of new schools that will help alleviate the overload of classrooms, first and foremost. I was eagerly awaiting for the date and guidelines to commence submitting the names of individuals who deserve the honor of having a school named after them. I am glad that the guidelines were discussed today and will be issued shortly. In keeping up with the history of BISD schools, I have noticed that only 5 schools have been named after actual teachers. We have principals that have their name on a school that were also teachers, but they were named after they were principals. We have Webb, Clearwater, Castañeda, Egley, and Burns. We need to pay homage to our teachers by recognizing and honoring their dedication by naming more schools after teachers. Since 1983, a school has not been named after a teacher. That was Marilyn Burns. For the record, there are 18 schools named for principals, administrators, and college presidents, 11 locations, 9 community leaders, 3 judges, 2 legislators, and 1 each for an author, a mayor, a bus driver, a custodian, and a counselor. It's time that we honor a teacher. Now, I came before you on 2 different occasions on a mission to honor my aunt, Miss Raquel Peña, who wants to place her name for consideration of the naming of Ben Bright Elementary and wants to present her Navy service flag to her beloved school, NES Butte-Net. Today I continue my mission. Upon the urging of many of her ex-students, ex-colleagues, and her family members, I will again submit Raquel Peña's name for consideration when naming one of the new elementary schools. Since she was an elementary teacher for 37 years in the same classroom at NES Butte-Net. Being the role model that she was, 14 of her nieces and nephews, as well as hundreds of her ex-students, also became teachers, and one of them a board member. Your thorough study and review of her credentials will convince you that her name would bring honor to an educational building named after her. This action will be greatly appreciated by me, her family, her colleagues, but most of all, her ex-students. I thank you for your time and your consideration, and I thank you for your service.
Thank you, Ms. Rodriguez. Our next speaker is Jill Graves. The subject is number 14, an aquatic center.
Good evening, Dr. Escobedo and Superintendent Gonzalez. I'm here and yes, enjoying that retirement. One of the items that's on your agenda is number 14. I do not have a problem with counselors, but I do have a question about the issue. It says, recommend approval to allow retired certified counselors to serve as substitutes in vacant counselor positions. Now, according to page 42 of the TRS handbook, it states that retirees may substitute in an unlimited number of days during the school year. For TRS purposes, a substitute is a person who serves on a temporary basis in the place of a current employee. The retiree's pay cannot be more than daily rate for the substitute pay set by the employer. My question is, will the state allow this, and how are you going to get around it? Because some of these may be forfeiting some of their retirement pay if they are hired in this type of position. The other thing I have is some comments about the aquatic center. Brownsville's best kept secret is the aqua aerobics program at the Margaret Clark Aquatic Center. The program was recently cut from 5 classes to 2, and the reasons were given. They had 7 instructors, now they have 3. Comments were made that people had not implemented the budget correctly. Too many part-time people were hired. Too many substitutes were used. I have participated on a regular basis since August. In December, a sign was posted, opened during the Christmas break, and I'm not sure how early it was, but it closed at 2 p.m. So the 4:30 class I attended no longer existed. Even the instructor didn't know it wasn't there. The group that needs the most help was the arthritic group that met at 3:30. That particular one has been totally cut out. And those particular men and women, some of them went with walkers to that particular arthritic program. And a couple of other things. The group that needs it the most were the arthritis. Apparently they were going to train some people in November to become instructors for the arthritic program, but that training had been canceled. So the only trainer was someone who was not a BISD employee. And she was retired, and I don't know whether she was volunteering her time or being paid or what, but she was a wonderful instructor. There has been very little communication between the class participants. As an example, if there's a swim competition at the end of that week, we're told the day before by word of mouth. I'm sorry, I think a simple sign on the door on Monday of that week would better behoove those students that did not go every day. And see, I consider myself a student because I'm still learning aqua aerobics. If the program is not cost effective, advertise. It used to be advertised on the BISD TV channel, I think in the bargain book and perhaps the paper. I don't know whether they have 2 separate crews that work the program, or one in the morning, one in the afternoon. That would be a suggestion because some of those young men and women would like to continue their education. But when they come and go for 45 minutes here, they leave, they come back, they don't have an opportunity to go to any college course. Because as you know, some of the programs run till 8 o'clock at night, and I don't think the classes at the college start that late. Advertising for instructors and lifeguards is on the BISD website. I feel more advertising, such as a quick call to TSC or UTB, might get somebody in their athletic department that you might have more applicants. If they're hiring too many part-time instructors or lifeguards, when the budget time comes, please get full-time slots and get somebody in there that's committed to stay. Some of the participants that I talked to don't drive at night. Now the only 2 classes are either you leave in the morning in the dark, and when sunrise comes out, you're finished, because the only 2 classes are 6:15 in the morning to 7, or 6:15 at night to 7. And there were several of the elderly people that do not drive at night. And so they either they gave it up. And by the way, they lost around 60 participants when they cut the 3 classes out. When it comes to budget time, please help them out. Allocate more funds. As I stated, the aqua aerobics program at Brownsville is Brownsville's best kept secret. I am surprised more people aren't there, although with 14 of us there in the morning churning those waters, it is difficult to get through. I've told my doctors about it. They said they'd recommend it to their patients.
Closing
And-
comments, ma'am?
And then, just briefly, you know, I'm spreading the word. You guys need to spread the word. But thank God that coffee pot in the morning has a program timer. Because when I'm getting up that early in the morning, I want my coffee. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to item 8, open hearing. This is a grievance that has been requested to be heard in open session pursuant to Board Policy DGBA Local. Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes, Dr. Escobedo, members of the board, I would like to call about a 5-minute recess to be able to set up for the open hearing. If that's okay with you, Dr. Escobedo?
Okay. If there are no objections, then we will recess for 5 minutes. The board reconvenes after a 5-minute recess. We will now continue with our Level 3 Board Grievance and Review. Level 3 Grievance, Perla Cárdenas and Nora Aguilera, number 009-07/08. Mr. Gonzalez.
Thank you, Dr. Escobedo, members of the board. The grievance have requested an open meeting, and as such, it is granted. I would call on Counsel, Mr. Saldana, to start it off and give the same briefings he does when we do closed session.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez, Dr. Escobedo, members of the board. This is Level 3 grievance number 009-07/08. The grievance are Perla Cárdenas and Nora Aguilera. This hearing is being conducted pursuant District Policy DGBA Local. We are in attendance at the regularly scheduled board meeting of the January 15th, 2008 meeting of the Brownsville Independent School District. It is approximately 7:28 p.m. We are located at 1900 East Price Road, Brownsville, Texas, in the main boardroom of the central office of the district. Present is in the entire board of trustees and the superintendent, Mr. Hector Gonzalez. Prior to going forward with this hearing, the general remark to all board members is a question as to whether there is any reason that any of you here this evening cannot be reasonably objective in the consideration of the grievance and rendering a decision on the facts and issues before them. I take it then from your silence that the board has, all board members are prepared to go forward and are prepared in terms of their packages that are issued to them. Also present this evening is Mr. Hector Chirinos and Mr. Brent Springston, who will be representing the administration this evening. Present also are the grievance, Ms. Aguilera and Ms. Cárdenas, and their representative from the Association of Brownsville Educators, Mr. Tom Punteredi. Translating will be, if we could have her name, Mr. Punteredi?
Lucy Morales.
Ms. Lucy Morales will be translating these proceedings on behalf of the grievance. This is a Level 3 hearing, and as such is a non-evidentiary hearing. The board has received and has reviewed packages which include all documents submitted by the parties at Level 1 and considered at Level 2. Also included in the packages are the actual grievances and decisions issued at Level 1 and at Level 2, plus the Level 3 grievance. No new evidence will be considered at this hearing. This is a review of the Level 1 and Level 2 hearings by the board. Any attempt to introduce any new evidence will require ruling by the presiding officer, which will be Dr. Enrique Escobedo, President of the Board. The parties are allowed to submit summaries of Level 1 or Level 2 or summaries of their testimony or positions and or letters of recommendation that may aid the Board in their decision here this evening. I make the two preliminary cautions or admonitions to the parties after consultation with Dr. Escobedo. First, since this is an open hearing, rights of individuals may need to be protected. If in the opinion of the presiding officer, Dr. Escobedo, the complaint forms or becomes a complaint against an officer, an individual, or an employee of the district, then that employee,
subject of those comments, may be entitled to remove this matter to executive session. Aside from names of individuals, the parties should refrain from fact scenarios which would clearly identify an employee or officer of the district. Second, again in consultation with Dr. Escobedo, we are requesting that the parties stay within their pleadings as submitted in their Level 1 request and as required by DGBA local. That is, you are limited to the allegations and relief requested that you have made in writing on the official Level 1 grievance form. Although this is an open hearing, the board may seek legal advice from counsel in regards to certain questions or issues in executive session if it so desires. The board may then render its decision and deliberate in open session pursuant to DGBA local. The procedure is well known to the parties and the board. The grievance will have 10 minutes to present their case, and administration will have 5 minutes to present its case. I will be keeping time and be informing the presiding officer, Dr. Escobedo, of these matters and keeping him abreast of the time. As you well know, Mr. Puntarelli, you are also entitled to divide your time and reserve some time for rebuttal of the administration's presentation. Do you desire to split your time, Mr. Puntarelli?
Yes, sir.
And how would you like that?
About 4 minutes.
6 and 4?
4 and 6.
4 and 6. I will attempt to signal you with a hand motion, Mr. Puntarelli, when you have approximately 15 seconds into your 4 minutes. We will not stop you. If you continue after that, I will, at that point, indicate to you the amount of time that you have left in terms of your rebuttal. Very well, it is approximately 7:33 p.m. If there's any questions from the parties at this point in time, can we have them? Regards to the procedures here this evening. Very well. Dr. Escobedo, it's yours, and you may allow the grievance to present.
Okay, we will go ahead and listen to the grievance.
Okay. Board President, board members, superintendent, I'd like to wish you a good evening. This grievance is really not one that is very complex. In fact, it is quite simple. Back in 1996, Perla and Nora were employed as bus monitors for BISD, and at the same time, they were also licensed to drive a school bus. During that year, the then Director of Transportation was short of bus drivers, and she approached both our members and asked them if they would be interested in a promotion. And of course, the two said yes. That's when the problem began. For 4 years, both Perla and Nora drove school buses for BISD, but yet they were not paid and they were not given seniority as bus drivers. These two ladies were not interested in the approximately $8,000 that was owed to them by the district. What they were interested in was to get the seniority, the 4-year seniority that they had so diligently earned. What occurred is these two went before the Bus Barn Committee. The Bus Barn Committee then was a committee that was developed by the Director of Transportation, which basically mirrors what is called the Teachers Site-Based Committee. They went before this committee and pleaded their case, and the individuals on that committee, inclusive of the Director of Transportation, agreed to give them the 4 years of seniority that they so rightfully earned, because they did drive a bus every day for those 4 years, but yet they were never paid. And again, they were not asking for that pay, and they're still not asking for that pay. What they are asking for is for those 4 years to be reinstated. In 2004, the Bus Barn received a new Director of Transportation. The new director continued to honor their seniority for the next 3 years, because this was the information that was at hand in the Department of Transportation of BISD. However, in August of 2007, someone in the Transportation Department stripped these two ladies of their seniority. Thus, we filed a grievance to correct this error. We now ask the Board of Trustees to right this gross error by reinstating the 4 years of seniority to both Perla and Nora. And again, they are not asking for the money. They are asking only to receive the 4 years that they have earned. Thank you.
Mr. President, Mr. Pontereda, you have approximately 7 minutes reserved for rebuttal. It's approximately 7:36, administration.
Please.
My name is Jose Hector Chirinos, and I am in my 4th year as Administrator for Transportation. My position in this grievance was presented at both Level 1, Level 2 hearings, and you have a copy of the testimony and corresponding documents. I will summarize my Level 2 testimony today in Level 3 grievance hearing. In June of 2004, upon my assignment as Administrator of Transportation, I was made aware of a seniority list that existed. As of May 2007, I had made no changes in the seniority list insofar as moving or adjusting any employee. A grievance was held in May of 2007, and an alignment was made to be effective in August of 2007. This is what this grievance is about. The seniority list adjustment implemented in August of 2007 did not affect the grievance, pay, or benefits, and it has not affected the grievance regular or midday bus routes, selection of routes, or assignments. Both grievance are currently driving the routes on a daily basis. My position is that I will not adjust or move any employee on the seniority list based on information prior to my tenure at the Transportation Department, since I was not there and I cannot therefore justify any move. In reference to the MBO, I've heard about the MBO. I understand that the MBO was in place at the Transportation Department prior to my being assigned there. It is my understanding that the MBO committee was for the purpose of looking at various items, including seniority within the department. There has not been any written documentation given to me from the prior administration regarding this MBO. During my tenure at the Transportation Department, beginning in June of 2004, the seniority list has been determined by the authority to report to work form issued by HR Department. I take the authority to report to work form that is issued by the classified department and transfer it to the seniority list. The HR department does not create a seniority list. That is a departmental procedure. The seniority list is created by the authority to report to work dates. This is the procedure for the Transportation Department currently used to create the seniority list. Basically, the authority to report to work dates. Thank you.
The rebuttal, please.
Okay, the report to work paper is not in question. That was a gross error also done by the previous director because they did not submit the information. But the director did know that the two women did work those 4 years, which is why she agreed with her committee to give them the 4 years of seniority that they earned. We provided to the school district a list of employees that said this committee existed and these people served on that committee. And also they are saying to you that they are willing, or that these two ladies should be given their seniority back. And the good thing about it is every one of those individuals that signed that petition did not lie. because they're telling the truth, because by telling the truth, they're hurting themselves, because these two ladies will move ahead of them on the seniority list. So why would those individuals lie about a committee or about an incident that occurred 4, 7, 8 years ago? You get to the point where he says that originally someone said that it was from the Human Resource Department that said that they would lose their seniority. I talked to the people in Human Resource, and they said seniority does not exist in BISD. It exists only in individual departments, and each department must take care of their own seniority. This was done in transportation. You wind up having information about a grievance that was filed, and that's why they were stripped of their seniority. The policy of this district is emphatic, and you individuals on this board have been emphatic, and so has every administrator in this school district, that if you don't follow the procedures, it's thrown out. This should have been filed 7 years ago. You're telling me that you accept a grievance that somebody filed 2,500 days ago, and you permit it to stand? You not only permit it to stand, but you grant the remedies. And I asked each and every one of you to ask yourself one question. Why would any administrator grant the hearing of a grievance and its remedies 2,500 days later? That makes no sense to me. And in fact, everybody that is in administration should know that. And if they do know that, then they're saying that they don't care about the policies that you 7 enact. And that is a shame. Well, you folks also need to know, or need to do, if you vote against my clients and the numerous employees at the bus barn for what they're saying, then you need to be able to say, what is happening in this school district when someone admits that they did something because of a grievance, and that grievance was filed 7 years after the fact? There's no rationale for ever accepting that. And in fact, I recall at one point in time, we had a disagreement in reference to a grievance that was filed by one of my members. And you all know what happened with that. Therefore, in the name of justice, we ask the Board of Trustees to grant the reinstatement of the 4 years of seniority that Perla and Norma have rightfully earned. Everyone here tonight knows that morally, this is the right thing to do. And this is why the previous director and that committee voted to give these two ladies the 4 years of seniority, because they knew they were cheated out of thousands of dollars and did not receive the 4 years of work that they so graciously worked at and accepted the promotion by the director. But yet the director forgot to submit the paperwork. And they're not complaining about that. They're just saying, please give us what we rightfully worked for. Thank you.
Thank you very much. What I would like to do now is reconvene in executive session in order to consult with administration and legal counsel. So
I have a question in reference to that.
Counselor?
Since we asked for an open hearing, I believe that deliberation and questioning must also occur in open session.
Deliberation should occur in open session. However, the board reserves the right at any time to consult with counsel concerning any legal questions that they may have, and that is provided by law to be done in executive session.
Then I assume there will be no administrators in there with you?
I have no idea, sir. The superintendent is entitled to be present at all board meetings.
I
That's
object.
up to the board president to make that decision. It is his call as the presiding officer.
I'd like to go on record that I object to that.
So noted. The board will now reconvene in closed session. The board reconvenes after closed session. We continue our deliberation on level 3 grievance Perla Cárdenas and Nora Aguilera. I will open the floor for questions or comments. Mr. Lehman?
Yes, sir. In listening to the both parties, I want for the record to get from administration, the two ladies grieving, were they at the time when they were asked to, they were monitors that were asked to do driving duties, and they stayed doing that for 4 years, is that correct?
Mr. Gonzalez?
Thank you. To the best of my knowledge, members of the board, I came in 1998 and oversaw operations, and at that time we were looking at things, and it was not uncommon for monitors or even mechanics to be asked to drive in order to get students to school. It was one of those situations that you were classified as a monitor, but on occasions you were asked to drive. That's how people started getting into the driving part. However, they were permanently assigned to either be mechanics or to be monitors, not bus drivers. And that was a departmental issue because of the simple fact that they didn't have enough drivers, and our priority at that particular time was to get kids to school. So they were not permanent bus drivers, they were considered bus monitors or mechanics, but they still drove on occasion.
And there was a wage differential at the time between a monitor and a bus driver?
Yes,
Or
there
would
was.
have been?
Yes, there was.
Okay, and they're not grieving that particular situation at this point. Then, is there a record of they having done these duties back 2000, when was it?
No, sir.
Two? Okay.
You're asking if there's a record? No, sir. Not to my knowledge, there is not a record.
So how can we substantiate this? How can we
Can't.
substantiate their claim? That would be my question.
You
I didn't
really
see that.
can't substantiate the claim. It's a matter of like anything else. What were your official duties? What were you assigned? You were assigned to be a bus monitor. Those were your official duties. What were your official duties? I was assigned to be a mechanic. What was your official duties? To be a bus driver. You were a bus driver. So those were the way it was. And so to be able to say, how can we substantiate? I can't, because I wasn't there. So I can't say what they were doing, but I do know that when we came into that department a few years back, it was that it was not uncommon to see mechanics which got paid as mechanics to drive a bus.
Mr. Powers?
Yeah, thank you, President. Ms. Gonzalez, I looked at the data, and I understand that there were monitors, but they did have a Class C driver license to drive a bus, right? But and I'm not blaming the current administration at the bus barn. I think you're doing a great job, Ms. Hector is. But when you see a document that's an 0405, and it states here, driver 51796, driver 21799, that's evidence that there is actual documentation that states they were driving.
They were driving in 2004, 2003.
But they classify it as a driver. There's record that says they're driver. They don't
They were
say
a
monitor.
driver. They were drivers in 2000,
So,
sir.
I say personally, when you bring
think that's in
this type
question.
of document, and they're not asking for money, which they could have, and I compliment them for not asking for money. They weren't looking at their pocket, but 4 years on a pay scale makes a difference to a classified employee. And I feel, since they did prove that they had documentation, and it was based on the prior administrations in the late 90s, that they should be given those 4 years, because there is an actual evidence here that shows that they were there. And we did say they are drivers.
Mr. Powers, I might just clarify it for you. There's no debate that there were drivers in those years. The debate is between 1996 and 2000. That there were drivers in 2003, you're absolutely right. That's absolutely documented. You're absolutely correct. There's not even a debate by either side. However, the debate is, were they drivers between 1996 and 2000?
And that's what you have no proof of.
Yeah, we do have proof, sir. What's this list here?
What are the years that
Okay,
says?
just for the record, It's stating that Ms. Cardenas, Perla Cardenas, has a date, I don't know the inception date that's shown here, but it shows 5/17/96. And her classification here is driver. I don't know if that's the date she started working for BISD, and her classification now is driver.
Now is driver. She was a monitor from between 1996 and 2000. That was her official HR.
My original and then for Ms. Aguilera, excuse me, Nora, the inception date is 2/7/97, and classification currently this is a 2004-2005 sheet as driver.
Mhm.
So as of 2004, they were driving, so they were considered drivers.
Drivers at the time, yes, sir.
Okay,
At
so
that particular time.
the dates in question is 4 years prior, 2000 to 2004?
Prior to 2000.
96 to 2000.
Mhm.
Well, 96, they came in as monitors, so they did monitor work. So, my other question would be, how many of these situations do we have pending out there that they could come back and ask for reclassification?
I have no idea.
Since we don't have the proper documentation. But, to the best of my, knowledge as far as administration concerned, we cannot substantiate that these people were driving. I'm pretty sure we have employees that would attest that they were driving.
And I'm not even going to
Or
say that
documents that
they
exist.
weren't driving, Mr. Lehman. I don't know if they were full-time drivers or not. They could have been driving one week and be monitors the next week. They could be drivers one day and a monitor the next day. They're official, and all I can tell you is official. They officially were monitors at that time.
But, Mr. Gonzalez, the President, I think by law, DOT, don't we have to have a driver's log with any students in a bus and who's driving because of issues of safety? That there has to be some type of documentation that they did drive from one point to the next point? I mean, I think they have to. I mean, that's how they get the mileage, that we get reimbursed, who was the driver?
You have bus routes, not necessarily who the drivers were.
Don't you have to, you have to have who the driver is, who's going to show up at the schools, like, they're gonna go pick them up at Stell, they gotta know what driver's gonna go pick them up at Stell.
I guess the question is, are there any records?
You're confusing you're confusing field trip runs with bus runs. There's two different issues here.
I agree.
And that's what you're looking at. Yes, when they go to Stell and find out who's picking up the football team, yeah, they have an assignment there. And that's not even in debate. We all have those assignments. The question that you're asking is it's difficult to answer because of the link back that you're going to. One thing that it's true, and Mr. Pontori said it's correct, we don't have seniority in this district. There is no policy for seniority in this district. It's strictly a departmental procedure. There are no policies at all in regards to seniority.
We call
But
it
we do have
years of
policy.
experience
we're
in
talking
a
years of
field.
experience. We do have policy for years of experience.
Years of experience in a field. I
Yeah.
guess that would be the issue that we're addressing here.
No, sir, we don't, not for pay or for anything, we do not take that into consideration. No, sir, we do not have
Experience?
a pay scale, only for teachers. The only pay scale we have, and it's not a teacher pay scale, it's the teacher hiring schedule.
No, but we have minimums, the maximum, and based on years of.
Those are boxes.
Those are boxes, correct.
Right. It has nothing to do with
So what are they grieving technically? That would be my question.
an
I mean, I understand.
administrative procedure that's at the department in the way they select routes.
Wouldn't that be at the discrimination of the supervisor or the director?
No, sir.
That-
At the discretion,
Yeah.
not discrimination. At the
Oh,
discretion.
I never said discrimination.
The discretion.
Discretion.
At the discretion of the.
He might discriminate, but I don't know.
At the discretion.
That is his
of-
discretion or her
At the
discretion.
discretion of the administrator in charge.
Okay.
And that's what has happened every time they change administrators, is at their discretion, and that's exactly
So-
what the point is.
Are they grieving that they've been discriminated against that discretion?
They're basically, I'm not trying to interpret them because I'm not going to interpret their grievance. That is their grievance. It's up for you to determine, to interpret their grievance. However, what they're saying is that they feel they should get those 4 years because of prior administration's discretion to give them those 4 years, and this current administration's discretion of using certain criteria to determine the years of experience on that. And because there is no set policy on that, it is a discretionary issue.
Mr. Aguilar?
Thank you, Dr. Escobedo. I do have some really concerns about this also. going back to 96, 2000, and I'm not in a position to talk about the present administration because he was not there. However, some decisions were made back then, and those people drove a bus, and according to the presentation, on a daily basis. I cannot understand how a department did not have any kinds of records. Also, I'm surprised that the public relations people, or not public relations, excuse me, personnel department, would not have any records at all. Whether it was the error of the previous administrator, or whatever it was, still, the fact still remains that they rode a bus and they had a license. Also, I believe that people, when they come forward and honestly tell you, yes, they drove the bus, I think they're telling the truth. And where do we start? We need to trust people in our school district. We only trust people that are in all departments and not our certain departments. If we're a district, they're all families, and we take care of those people themselves. If there was an error because of previous administration, let's correct it. To me, 96, 2000, whatever happened, those people were driving a bus. Unless somebody tells me now they were not, and I can't believe they were not. You see? Also, all these things about why does it take 3 years to find out that they didn't have those, they were not drivers? You know, it amazes me that it takes 3 or 4 years to find out, then we come with a new list. And then 2 people are singled out. They were not going to be given the 4 years because at that time we didn't have any documentation. You know, that is sad for a district or any administrator can come up with some kind of that information. I'm with Otis. We should reward them back to 4 years.
Mr. Cortez?
You know, from the testimony that I heard, or the information that was given us a few moments ago, it almost seems like that scenario that we encountered last year, where we had to reclassify certain employees because their classification was changed some years back. It seems that they just basically want to get acknowledged for what they did. You know, in what was said to us by Tom, they mentioned that I forgot the term was, but that site-based committee there for the bus barn, that some of the, I guess, higher ranking in seniority members who were part of that team, I guess they voted in favor of saying, yes, you should have been given your 4 years. It's obvious that this has already been discussed. They agreed to it. And some of the people who, from what I understood, that voted for that change to occur, would be giving up some of their seniority status because some of these ladies would take a higher president on that system. It just doesn't seem to me that those people would want to drop a notch on that seniority list that the bus barn may or may not have for purposes of helping somebody else, unless it in fact did occur. And I agree with Mr. Aguilar, you know, that we have an opportunity to correct something that was wronged, and I for one would be in favor of the move to grant the remedy that the grievance are seeking.
I have a question. If we take their word that they were in fact drivers from 96 to 2000, and we then investigate and find out that in fact they were not, what can we as a district do to these employees after we have proof that in fact they lied to us?
Well, the thing about it is, I don't know if we can do an investigation concerning that, because I think the only investigation you can actually do would be a matter of official records. If you're going to do an investigation, you're going to have to do official records. Official records say they were bus monitors. You're gonna get some people to say yes, they drove a bus. You're gonna say other people yes, they might have driven a bus on occasion, but they were also monitors at occasions too. And you know, it's trying to do something. I cannot testify on behalf of the administration. I can't testify on behalf of the employees. That's not my job. I can't testify. I can only answer your questions. Matter of fact, it's against the law for me to testify in either side. I can only answer your question. The question is, can we do an investigation? Yes, and it was done. The investigation says they were monitors officially at that time. Now you have them, the grievance is, yes, I was a monitor. They're not even in debate because they acknowledge that. Tom has already acknowledged that they were classified as monitors. That is a fact. Did they drive those 4 years on a daily basis? If we acknowledge that, then it's acknowledged. That's the part of the board that has to say, do we acknowledge that or not? Once again, it would then, of course, redo the list, and other people that might there now have an opportunity to grieve concerning the other way. I have documentation, this and that. It's a sensitive point. I think a solution from administrative part would be to set up certain procedures in place, or policy, or administrative guidelines concerning this particular issue. This is the only department that looks at seniority in any form or fashion. Maintenance doesn't look at it, food service doesn't look at it, nobody else looks at seniority. And this is for selection of routes. It's more that for the selection of routes than it is for pay. It's for selection of routes. And there, I don't think it even affects the regular routes. It doesn't even affect the field trip routes. It only affects the midday routes. And it's complicated to teach a board completely what that transportation department is, because it's a complicated department. Because there's many routes to be selected. Regular routes are okay. The routes for field trips are okay. This is concerning an issue of midday runs.
Mr. Lehman?
Yes, sir. I guess to go back to my initial question, as far as having any type of documentation, we don't know whether these people drove on a regular basis or on a special basis. Is that what you're trying to tell us?
That is correct, because at that time, I know for a fact that on occasions, what do you call it, the mechanics would drive, but also the dispatchers would drive. And on occasion, administrators would drive. We did whatever it took to get kids to school.
So my question there again, on the question of pay, the monitor versus the driver. Now, these ladies would have had their correct licenses. We wouldn't have put them on the bus if they didn't have the correct license at the time.
They would have to have. They had the driver's license, or else they wouldn't be driving. You're absolutely right.
Okay.
That's the question you're
So
asking.
the issue now is what was the pay for? Was there a difference in pay between a monitor and a driver?
It was within the box, and it all depends where you placed you in the box at that particular time. There was no.
I would assume that there would be 2-year-old employees.
There was no scale, and there's still not a scale on. If you have 5 years experience, you get X number of dollars. There is no scale. It's in the box.
I mean, for them not to say anything, if we say, well, how come they didn't say anything? I would be tickled pink to have a job, and in fear of whatever it be, not retaliation or whatever. But I've been given an opportunity, so I would have done what I was asked to do. But hindsight is 20/20, and there again, the issue now becomes, what does administration have? Can you counter their claim that, or can administration? I guess administration cannot come and say no, that we don't know if they were driving or not.
We can.
Or do you know, in researching, did you question other employees? Were they driving? Did they say yes, they were driving, or no, they were not driving? I mean, I find it difficult that you couldn't have colleagues in their division not coming forward and saying, no, they were driving.
It's not that matter of researching it or not researching it. You got to determine at a particular time a basis to do things. A basis to do things is what were you at the time, officially. What were you officially doing at the time? I understand what you're saying. Were they driving? I'm not even denying they were not driving. I'm not even going to say that. Officially, they were classified as monitors.
But officially made a mistake by not classifying properly.
And then at that time,
supervisor, let me just say, if that supervisor, if that supervisor did indeed ask these ladies to take on extra duties or driving duties, then the supervisor should have made the correction at the time, and that's where the failure, if indeed it is what it is. That's what I'm alluding to. We need to correct something that possibly went wrong somewhere. To say that, well, because it happened back then, and I don't know how many snakes are out there as far as problems that can come back and bite us, but this is when you have the right hand not knowing what the left hand is doing. But it's communication between division supervisors and HR, maybe we need to clean it up.
Let me, if I may, just for a minute. You know, you question, and it's a very valid question. And like I say, I'm not going to testify for either side, but I'm going to tell you how it is. This has been an issue ever since way back Durham days, as they call them. We have been adjusting since then. And we've been adjusting and adjusting and adjusting. This is just another adjustment area. So when you get down to it, like you know, we've talked about it before, this is the only department that looks at seniority, and it's not for pay. It's only for the selection of routes. Gotta remember that. There is no seniority for pay. This is only for the selection of routes. And like I say, most of it we've been able to iron out pretty well. I'm very proud of the transportation department and of all the administrators that have tried to work this thing out for many, many years. This is just another one of the steps that we've come across. And it becomes an issue of what do you as a board member feel is correct. This is why it's brought to you. We as administrators have to look at it in a very concrete way. What were you? Were you a driver or were you a monitor officially? That a mistake was made back in 1996 or whatever, that maybe the administrator, whoever it was at that time, I don't even recall the name of the person, did not put in the paperwork and officially converted them to drivers or promoted them to drivers. I don't know why it didn't happen. I wasn't even there. The thing about it is, now, do you go through that and say, yes, we've fixed a whole bunch in transportation. We come to another, it's just another glitch of how we handle things. The thing about it is, officially, I can only tell you officially, they were classified as monitors. I can't go back and correct that. I can't go back and change it. They became drivers in 2000.
Mr. Aguilar?
Well, and the question that Mr. Lehman said, can the administration prove or whatever, were they drivers? But what do you have? Basically, what you have is the original application of that person, and that was a monitor. So because there's a neglect somewhere along the line that they were not reclassified or former administrator did not submit the paperwork. However, this proved that they were driving the bus. And evidently, somebody knew in transportation, somebody knew in personnel, because those are looked and reviewed, recommended for new contracts, whatever it is. And let me tell you, you might say we only have a seniority list for routes, or what did you say that? But it also includes when they go out of town, that's extra pay.
That's
So actually, the list is also it's a list for extra pay. In reality, because when they assign, when Mr. Chirinos selects his drivers to go out to McAllen or out of state, whatever it is, not out of state, but out of the district, they're getting paid out of that list. So that list.
If I may, there's different criteria for that.
Well,
Let's not go into that.
No, what I'm saying is according to
There's
what.
different criteria for that.
It's what it was. They gave it to us in the grievance
This is for midday run.
when they said when it affects them because they're assigned routes.
Yeah, midday run.
And it said it costs money, according to the grievance we read this morning, or at least I did. So actually, you have the list, there's money involved.
And I just want to, because my job is to present you with the facts. This is considered midday runs, not field trip runs. That's a different criteria.
Whatever route, but the money's involved.
All right, well, I think, are there any last minute comments? I think we've discussed enough and we should be ready to vote on this. Any final comments, Mr. Powers?
No, I'm ready to vote.
Okay, with that said, I'll open the floor for a motion.
Mr. President,
Mr.
I
Powers?
move to grant the grievance their 4-year seniority as reinstated.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Powers and a second by Mr. Aguilar. All in favor, raise your right hand.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion passes to 5-2. Moving on to consent agenda, I have received a list from my colleagues indicating that there is no need for discussion or deliberation, or let me restate that there is a need to discuss and or deliberate the following agenda items. So we will discuss number 20, 25, and 26. 20, 25, and 26. All other items would fall under consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Motion by Mr. Cortez, second by Mr. Aguilar. All in favor, raise your right hand.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Moving on to item 20. Recommend awarding RFP number 08-082 for district-wide cabling and equipment E-rate to Callens, I believe is how you pronounce it, Callens Network Marketing, McAllen, Texas. This is an annual proposal. I will open the floor for discussion. Mr. Cortez.
Yeah, Dr. Escobedo, I just had a couple of questions for the superintendent on this item. Callens has been working with BISD for a number of years now. I'm looking at the amount expended in the previous 12 months. It says 2.3 million and change. That's just counting the 10% that BISD pays, right? That's truly a $23 million contract, right? Is that correct or no?
Mr. Gonzalez?
What I'm reading on here?
Well, what they're bidding is the total price. We're gonna pay 10% of that.
Right, okay. I know that when we were at the technology conference, we had some questions on proper monitoring of all the E-rate installations and expenditures. Are we anywhere closer to having a system in place that would help us monitor every dollar that's spent? I mean, whether it's our 10% or 90% that we're receiving from the government to have these systems put in place for us.
Mr. Gonzalez?
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Escobedo. Yes, Ruben, Mr. Cortez, we have in place, as a matter of fact, I put in now Mr. Gonzalez, the deputy superintendent in charge of technology, and we've met with Mr. Fisher, and we've gotten some new type of softwares in place to be able to track everything. Plus, I also told them, because as we go to the technology conferences and for the general public to know, we do learn. And I learned that basically we can even get our 10% back. So now Mr. Gonzalez and Mr. Fisher are working on even recouping the 10%. So yes, we've learned a lot. I learned a lot when I went to the conference, and I sat there and we brought back and discussed it in the administrative point of view, and Mr. Gonzalez knows now, Mr. Fisher knows now what our expectations are.
And the reason I ask is because, I mean, $2.3 million is an enormous amount of money, but we're truly looking at a $23 million contract, and whether we need to make sure, I mean, I believe that we just need to make sure that we're responsible with money that we're given, and so I had a concern about that software system. I know that you had talked about putting something in place for E-rate, and I wasn't sure if it had gone through, and so before I voted on this, I wanted to know where we were at on that.
If I may add, Dr. Escobedo, I appreciate that. This is something that we've been doing for years here. I think this is year 9 or something like that. What is it, year 9 or year 10?
Around 11.
Around 11. It's been a long time. And as a matter of fact, administration insisted that this was going to be bidded out. We weren't going to go to the DIR or to the BIP. As a matter of fact, this is it. This is the bid. We can't do any other thing other than this. This is either we accept this bid or reject it. If we reject it, we lose the whole 23 million. So this is where we're at. We are going to implement it. I think as we go through, you'll see a plan coming forth by administration concerning what we're going to be doing on E-rate and who's going to be running E-rate versus instructional technology. Mr. Fisher's good, but he's being divided into he was hired to be the administrator for instructional technology, not for the administrator for E-rate. He has gone into now too many areas that are not in the realm. And I appreciate it, Bob, done a great job, but we need to focus on instructional technology, and we also need to focus on cabling and telephones and everything else that E-rate helps us out with. So you'll foresee coming a different type of recommendations from administration concerning this. But this is basically something that we needed to put out there. We needed to bid it out in order to be competitive in nature instead of going to a buy board or to a DIR type scenario where we felt that it was time for us to bid it out, and we did that.
Right, and again, I only raised the point because when we were at that technology conference, we did find out that we're
Number six
in
the
the
nation.
entire United States for E-rate monies, and when I saw
Top dogs.
that number, I was like, wow, you know, we get a lot of money, and I just wanted to make sure that we're responsible with it, and that we have proper tools in place to monitor the expenditures of those dollars.
And if I may, Dr. Escobedo, I just want to, we are number 6 in the United States as far as E-rate is concerned, and there's a lot of eyes on us, and we make sure we're doing it by the book because we get number 6 in the nation is pretty big. Top 10 in the nation is pretty big. There's just a few school districts that get more money than we do for E-rate, and we're making sure it's being spent the right way.
Mr. Aguilar?
Thank you, Doctor. I don't know if Damon said that, Mr. Damon, this is the 11th year with E-rate?
Round 11.
Round 11? Well, you know, Mr. Fisher has been, and his colleagues and his department has been involved since the very beginning. And my concern is that all these millions of dollars that's been going on, he has done an excellent job for the school district. And I hope it's not an indication that, well, something's wrong out there, that we need to bring an expert to come here, because all this time he has been the expert in technology. So I just want to say that we appreciate his work and all these years that he's been taking care of those millions of dollars.
Thank you, Mr. Aguilar. Any other comments or questions? If not, I have a motion to approve item 20. Motion by Mrs. Galvan, seconded by Mr. Cortez. All in favor, raise your right hand.
Aye.
Motion passed unanimously. Moving on to item 10, closed meeting. As pursuant to Texas Government Code, Section 551.071, et sec, the board now goes to closed session. The board reconvenes after closed session. Moving on to item 25, discussion and possible action to suspend local policy DEC local and BBE local certified employee GG. Do I have a motion to approve item 25?
Move.
I have a motion by Mr. Powers, seconded by Mrs. Galvan. All in favor, raise your right hand. The motion passes unanimously. Let the record reflect Mr. Lehman is not present with us. Mr. Powers, seconded by Mrs. Galvan, and Mr. Lehman is not present. Unanimous. Yeah. Moving on to item 26, recommend approval. Yeah, loading up the scooter. Recommend approval to terminate the employment of a teacher. Okay. I have a motion and a second. Motion by Mrs. Galvan, seconded by Mr. Aguilar to approve item 26 as read. All in favor, raise your right hand. The motion passes unanimously. Mr. Lehman is not present. Moving on to item 11, announcements. We've already discussed these on, we have a facilities committee meeting on Tuesday, January 22nd, here at the administration building at 5:30. And our next rescheduled board meeting is on Tuesday, February 12th, here at the administration building at 5:30, and it's already been approved. With that in mind, I have a motion to adjourn. Move. Motion by Mr. Powers, seconded by Mr. Galvan. All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion passes unanimously. Have a good night. This meeting is adjourned.